These are my Premier League predictions for game week 8. Kicking off, we have Luton versus Tottenham. And look, there's nothing more Tottenham in the whole world than them going and beating Liverpool and getting a draw against Arsenal, then losing to Luton. But I think under Ange, things are going to be a bit different for Tottenham now. And I think, in these games where they're expected to win, which in previous management they'd struggle with, I think they're going to go and beat them. But that being said, players like Maddison and Son and Solomon are all doubts for the game. So they are missing key players, but still, I do feel like this is going to be a Tottenham Hotspur win. The next game is Fulham versus Sheffield United. And look, as a Sheffield United fan, I've got to say I'm quite nervous about this game. We've just been told that our club captain, John Egan, is going to be out for a substantial period. And I think it puts us in a bit of a disarray going into this game, because I think, the last thing we need is our club captain to be out injured. And I think with the looming international break, I won't be shocked if Heckingbottom gets sacked if he doesn't win this game. So I desperately hope that we do get a win at Fulham. And I don't even think they've been in great form so far this season. But look, Sheffield United have been absolutely dire. Especially, West Ham and Newcastle are two pitiful performances. And I don't really see us turning it around. But maybe the idea of the manager getting sacked is going to give them the kick up the arse that they need to go out and put a performance out against Fulham. And for that reason, I think this game's going to end up being a draw. The next game is Burnley versus Chelsea. Now look, Chelsea are actually on a bit of a run right now. They've won 2 games in a row, which is, I think, that's probably the first time that's happened in about a season and a half. And, fair play to them. They spent £1 billion and they've managed to win 2 games in a row. It's quite impressive, really. And I think they're going to continue that form. I don't really rate Burnley massively. Obviously, I think when they play teams like, Sheffield United, Luton, Everton, teams with similar quality players, I think the quality of football that they play is superior to their teams, so they pick up points. But I think the issue is when they try to play this, open, expansive style of football against, bigger and better teams, they get hammered. We saw it happen against Man City. We saw it happen against Tottenham Hotspur. And I know that Chelsea aren't on that level, but I still don't really see this game going any other way than a Chelsea victory. Next up is Manchester United versus Brentford. Now look, United are on a pretty shocking run of form themselves. And look, Ten Hag is in serious trouble. I mean, after their first 10 games this season, they've lost 6. That isn't good by any sense of the imagination. Even for a mid-table club, that isn't a good way to start the season. So for a side who went out and spent more £200+ million in the summer, the expectations following a 3rd place finish has got to be, a title charge or, pushing to be, one of the bigger teams in the Premier League. And right now, they're nowhere near it. And to be honest, I think I won't be shocked if Brentford do something against them, at least get a draw, because Manchester United really struggle against low block teams. We saw it last week with Crystal Palace. So yeah, I think this game is going to be a draw. Next up, we have to talk about Everton versus Bournemouth. Now, look, Bournemouth are still winless in the league. And again, as a Sheffield United fan, I hope it stays that way, so we aren't the only team not to have won a game yet. And I think this is a bit of a difficult game to call. Obviously, Everton are much, much better at home than they are away. But then again, they lost to Luton last week. So I think, again, people like Sean Dyche, his job is going to be in serious jeopardy if he doesn't get something out of this game. And Bournemouth have looked quite good, in fairness to them. Their current league position isn't indicative of their quality. And for that reason, I'm going to say this game's going to end a draw. Next up is Crystal Palace versus Forest. We all know how good Palace are at Selhurst Park, and I think this is going to be a pretty simple win for Crystal Palace. Obviously, Forest have got some players who offer some quality on the break. People like Hudson-Odoi, people like Elanga, people like Awoniyi, people like Gibbs-White. But I just think Palace have got too much quality. I actually think Palace are quietly having a very good season, and I think they've got a really good squad. I think they've got a fantastic centre-back partnership. I think Sam Johnston's a great keeper. And obviously, they've got a Eze in that attacking midfield position, who's one of the most creative players in the Premier League. So I think they are going to win this game. Next up, Brighton versus Liverpool. When they played this game last year, Brighton absolutely smashed them 3-0. But this is a new look Liverpool side, totally different midfield. Also, you have to remember the Darwin Núñez factor. Obviously, because of the sending-offs Liverpool got against Spurs last week, they are going to have to play Núñez down the middle. And I think he's going to absolutely cook. I'm expecting a Liverpool win. Brighton aren't in a great run of form, and I think Liverpool have looked fantastic so far this season. Obviously, besides the Spurs result last week where they played so well, and just lost it in the last second. I think they're going to sweep Brighton aside. Next up, we see Newcastle travelling to West Ham, and despite the fact they're going to be away from home, I think Newcastle are going to win. I mean, look, they're in an incredible run of form, just beat PSG 4-1. The confidence in that squad is going to be absolutely sky high, and I don't really think David Moyes is going to have, the answers, to be able to compete against this Newcastle side. We saw last season when Newcastle travelled to West Ham and absolutely hammered them. I mean, the Hammers getting hammered. I mean, I thought at that point West Ham could have got relegated after seeing that performance they put out against Newcastle. And obviously they stayed up and actually went on to win some European silverware. But I do feel like it's going to be a similar result for Newcastle. I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable win for them. And next up we have Wolves versus Aston Villa. And look, I've just got to say, this has got to be the battle of the Black Country. Going into this game, I think it's pretty difficult to call who's going to win it. If I had to pick a side, I'm going to say Aston Villa. People always say that, during derbies, forms go out the window. But look, I think Aston Villa are just so much better than Wolves. I know they scraped a jammy 2-1 victory against Man City last week, which is nothing to laugh at. That's a great result for them. But I just think Aston Villa have got so much quality, and I think they're going to smash them. And finally, we have Arsenal versus Manchester City. And I think we saw it last season. They played 3 times. Arsenal lost every time. And I think it's going to be exactly the same again in this game. Arteta is a student of Pep. Okay? It's a classic story of student versus master. The student never wins that, right? I think Arteta has shown time and time again he can't beat Pep. Obviously, I think he beat him once in the FA Cup like 3 years ago. But that was with a different side. That was with Unai Emery's Arsenal. This is Mikel Arteta's Arsenal, where you've got £60 million player Kai Havertz getting, make-a-wish penalties against Bournemouth. And I just don't think that Arsenal team have the mentality that the Man City side do, where Man City just relentless, win, 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 win. Arsenal, I think it's a little bit too emotional, if you can sort of see my point there. And I think just for that reason, this is going to be a pretty comfortable Man City win. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on the Premier League this week. Thanks for watching.